everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm trying to, I'll go, I might need to click something to get that off the screen if you're seeing something weird, but I will do that in just a moment. I'm Marlo Daly Galliano at the Center for Teaching and Learning, and I'm so happy to have you with us today, and so happy to have Autumn Greene from Accessibility Services joining us. And Autumn is going to be presenting on what their office does, how they can help faculty, and also to work us through a few Word documents so we can learn how to create accessible Word documents. Thanks for being here, Autumn.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited about talking about accessibility and kind of getting that message out there. So if I will go ahead and start right away with sharing my screen. I have a small PowerPoint to go through, and then we'll jump right into creating an accessible document and actually doing that hands-on. So let me share my screen really quick and see if I have luck here. Hey, and Marlo, can you see my PowerPoint here? Can you bring it over here?
Okay. Oh, wait. Now I don't see it.
Oh, okay. I got rid of it. Perfect.
Now I see it.
Okay, perfect. So again, I just wanted to do a little housekeeping and talk about what our office does. So again, that's me wearing my favorite shirt today, and same shirt I took my picture with. But this is who I am. I'm Autumn Greene. I'm in the Accessibility Services office. I'm the Accessibility Services Coordinator. There is only one of me. If you ever are referring a student to our office, if you're ever needing something remediated, if you're talking about accommodations, it has probably come from me. So there's my contact information, a little bit about what we do. Again, we ensure students with documented disabilities have equal access to academic, vocational courses and all aspects of a program. In addition to that, in addition to accommodating students, we also, or myself, I create accessible material. So this means Word documents, PowerPoints, Excel documents, PDF documents, scanned images, etc. I can make those accessible to all users. And we'll get more into that today with our presentation. Why do we want to create accessible material? There's really two big reasons. Number one is the student, and I know that's why we're here. So of course, students at LC come with a wide variety of learning abilities. Creating accessible materials ensures students with those learning abilities have equal access to our learning material. And then of course, it is the law. So we are legally required by Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act and the American Disability Act. As we are an entity receiving federal funding, therefore we are required to provide equal access across the board to those individuals with disabilities. So a little bit about our numbers, just so people have a clear understanding of the students we serve and kind of how busy we are. So LC State's office serves 120 plus students a semester. And so I did look up our numbers this semester, and in fall 2021 so far, I believe we're in week 8 now. We have had 118 students self-identify with my office. They have provided documented or verified a documented disability, and they are receiving either academic accommodations in the classroom, housing accommodations such as an emotional support animal, maybe a single dorm room, maybe they have a special mattress need, some of our athletes, or dietary accommodations. So we do have students on campus who have dietary restrictions, and we make sure that our food folks at EXO are accommodating them. So those are the types of accommodations we provide. And then common disabilities you see on campus here at LC State: low vision, hearing loss, learning disabilities, anxiety, and depression are some really common ones here on campus. And then there are many students on campus, even a few service doggies that I haven't met, which means those students have disabilities and they've never identified with my office. Why do I mention that? We just want to think and think about everybody. That's kind of the message I'm getting out there today, is there are even students who have not identified with my office. You may never know that they have a disability, but there are people out there who have disabilities that may be hidden. And so we need to think about them when we're creating material. So that kind of leads me right into ways to learn about how to create accessible material. Today, a workshop through the CTL. We also offer some PDTs through HR on campus. I offer group meetings. If you have a group, maybe your director and your AA and your student worker want to get together and go over creating accessible material. We also do one-on-one Zoom. We do face-to-face. That is how traditionally we've done it in the past, face-to-face. And lastly is send it to me. So I'm here, I'm a resource. I want people to send documents to me, even if you just want to know if it's accessible. You've done everything you can to make it accessible. Is it accessible? I'm happy to answer those questions. And then of course, with a PDF, we'll touch on this a little bit today, but basically anytime a document is converted to a PDF, there is a special way that someone who's blind and totally relies on a screen reader. There is something that a screen reader connects with a PDF called a tag tree. And so anytime you convert your document to PDF, and that's the final format it's going to live in, I need to remediate that to make sure the tag tree can communicate with the screen reader. It's not something we teach because it is very in-depth. So I know a lot of people use PDF. So if you have a PDF living out there and you know it's not accessible, you want to vet it for accessibility, or you just want me to make it accessible, feel free to send it my way. So that's just a little bit about the Accessibility Services Office. I'll close that. And then I'll pull up the two good documents today that we're going to work on. And Marlo, you can still see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. And so we'll jump right in. So the first thing I want to mention is a lot of creating accessible material is absolutely easy to incorporate into your daily work. It's not hard, it's not difficult. It's just a lot of times we're not thinking about it. So that's the biggest thing today. Takeaway is if you can just think about accessibility when you're creating a document, because this stuff is very easy. And so I want you to be champions of it, know that you can do this and that there's not going to be any difficulty. Okay. So the first document, the checklist for creating accessible documents, that's just a document that anytime you're creating a document or a form, that you just refer to that to make sure that you've checked those things off along the way to be accessible. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this not accessible sample document, and we are going to apply all of these bullet points from the checklist to this document to make it accessible. So again, very easy to incorporate stuff. So we'll dive right in. So first thing, on your not accessible sample document, you see that there is a title, okay, or a heading level 1, basically a title to our document. Typically, we all have titles to our document. So this is called a title. So within Word, you have, and I'm just going to maximize my Word document here, you have all these tools up here, or style tools is what they're called. And so we really want creators of content to be using the tools that Word gives you, because they are there for a reason and they absolutely promote accessibility. Okay, so if you're creating a document with those tools, you're probably doing it in an accessible manner. Okay, so first thing on the checklist, it says heading styles applied to headings, H1, H2, etc. So what am I talking about? So first of all, when we look at our sample document that we want to make accessible, here's my title. And so up here in your styles bar, you can see that there are different tools. One of the tools does say title, but for accessibility reasons, the title, style, or tool is not what you want to use for your heading level 1 or for your title. What you want to use for your title is H1, heading level 1. Why is that? It's because a screen reader recognizes H1 as a navigation tool rather than a title. So there could be multiple H1s throughout your document. And so it's just a way for someone to navigate it. So I know titles out there, but the best practice is your title of your document is always your H1, okay? So that's the first thing you want to do. So it says headings create document structure and allow a person using assistive technology to easily navigate to different areas of the document. So what that means is, again, it's hard to imagine, but if you're blind, totally blind, and you're looking at a document, so you can't see it, right? Just like you and I can. So you're relying on the screen, or excuse me, your screen reader to communicate with this document. So how people who are blind communicate with this document is they listen. So the first thing that they're listening for are heading levels. Heading levels give them structure. So you and I can see the heading levels, right? We can see a bold, centered title, and that's the title or the heading level 1. But if you're blind, you rely on your screen reader to announce that this is heading level 1, okay? So the first thing we want to do is we want to use our tools up here, our toolbar, to make this title an H1, so that again, when a screen reader hits that document, they know H1, and that automatically alerts a person who's blind that this is the title of my document, okay? So as you can see right now, it's very modified, okay? The title right now is very specific. It's not, it's centered, it's bold, it's certain font, it's certain color, so it's very specific. And when I hover over H1, and I'm highlighted this area, you can see that if I hit H1, it is going to change my title. Okay, and that's probably not what anyone wants to do. So what you can do is what I do is I go in here and I highlight this just to see what the specs are. So you can see it's Calibri, it's 26 font, and it's centered. Okay, so that's how this content creator wants their title to look. Again, I'm not the content creator, but that's what I see. So that's what I would try to incorporate that specific stuff, but I would want to make it accessible. So how I do that is I hover in my H1 and I hit modify. Okay, and again, because I've highlighted what I want to make in H1, I know exactly how to modify my H1. So I hit modify, I right click, I hit modify, and I go in here and I adjust it exactly how my highlighted text is right now. So I'm going to change it to Calibri body, 26 font. It's already blue. I'm going to center it, and it's nothing else. Nothing else looks different. There's no bold, no italics, no underline. It's centered blue, 26 size font, and it's Calibri body. And I hit OK. So now, when I actually go ahead.
How did you get to the modify?
So you right click on that, Marlo, you right click on H1, and when you right click, it'll come up with those different tools.
Okay.
Okay. So now again,
Max, so it's a little.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, the Macs are different, I think.
Mac
Yeah.
is a little different. So
It's control click. Let me try that. There you go. Okay.
it's control click with Mac. Okay. So now that we've adjusted our H1, we've modified it exactly how the content creator created their title, right? It's exactly how it is. So now when I grab this text and I actually hit H1, it doesn't change anything visually. It moved it down because it made it an H1, but visually nothing else changed, right? If we go back, it just kind of moves up a little bit. But when we hit H1 and make it a heading level 1, there's no visual changes, but it's accessible now, okay? So that's what we mean by making that an H1. Now, the next thing, or any other heading subsections in your document, you want to make H2s. So as you can see in my document, I have H2s. I have other sections Headings is a section. Color used to convey meaning is a section. Color contrast is a section. You can barely see it. Creating a table of contents. All these are sections, okay? So now what I want to do, that's my H1. These need to be my H2s. They're clearly subsections of my title, right? So under headings, if I had another section, maybe it said modifying headings, maybe that would be my heading level 3, right? Your different subsections, okay? So what we want to do, we want to do the same thing we did to our title or our H1. We want to do that to our heading level 2s. So again, you can see it's Calibri body, it's 12-point font, and it's bold, and it's left justified. So if I hover right now over H2, it changes the visual look of my my heading or my text. So again, what I want to do is I want to modify that H2 before I go in and change all of these H2s, because I'm not the content creator and I want it to look exactly how this person's content looks, okay? So again, I'm just going to highlight that because I want all the specs, and then I'm going to hover over H2 and literally right click and hit modify. And now I'm going to just copy all of the specs that are out there for that H2, exactly how the content creator had it. So I'm going to go Calibri body. I'm going to go 12-point font. I'm hitting bold. This is black font color. And everything else looks good. So now I'm going to hit OK. And when I actually mark this in H2, again, you can hover over it. No visual changes. Okay, so I'm actually going to mark that in H2 now. Now I'm just going to go down and mark all my other subsections in H2, because we know, and you're going to see that this change color, because we know these are all H2s now. Okay, so mark these all H2s all through your document. And now you've made an accessible document, because again, why is it accessible? It's navigable. Okay, so someone who's blind and relies on these these heading structures, you've now made it accessible for them. Okay, so that's headings. Again, why do we do it? For navigation purposes. And how do you do it? You use the styles built in Word. You don't just go in and center it how you want and font it how you want, right? You use the styles built in Word. Okay, moving on. Our next area is color. So the big thing here is color. We do have people who are colorblind. Okay, so if you have a syllabus or you have a document and it says due dates are in red, or I've had a document that's like, fill out this section in green if you have this color or this is your last name. But again, if they don't see the green, they're colorblind, they don't know what section to fill out. If they don't see the red due dates, the text in red, they don't know what days are due dates, right? So what we like you to do is not use color as the only way to convey meaning. So what we ask is that you simply put a symbol with it. So again, if it says due dates are in red, maybe you put a star by each due date, like 9/27, and it's in red text, but it also has an asterisk next to it, okay? So again, if that person's colorblind, you're not making color the only way to convey meaning. Okay, so you could say due dates are red with an asterisk or whatever. But again, the big thing here is we do not want you to use color as the only way to convey meaning. And so in this example we have in our Word document, it says we have these two, we have a red dot and a green dot. And again, it's same type of situation. If all of these red dots were your due dates, or if all these red dots were a pattern you needed to follow, but I can't see red, then I need something else to know what to follow. So if you put a symbol, and in our example, we just put a P in all the red circles and an S in all the green circles. Okay, so it's just to show you that there are other ways you can still use color, but you just need a symbol with it. Okay, don't use color as the only way to convey meaning. In addition to color, high color contrast. So as you guys saw, when this was not marked as an H2, it was gray. It was was grayed and it was really bad contrast. And so the big thing here is we just want you to use dark foreground with light background, or light foreground with dark background, or vice versa, if I said that the same way. So that's all we want you to do. We do have a tool out there called Web Aim Color Contrast Checker. I'm going to pull that up really quick. Super cool tool, Web Aim Color Contrast Checker. Okay, super, super cool. You can go out here and you can test your colors for accessibility. So this will be on your little checklist if you ever need to remember what it is, but it's called Web Aim Color Contrast Checker. And you can just grab the color. So if you're making a PowerPoint, if you're creating a document and you wanted to use some color to convey meaning, you can just check your colors out here. So it has all the passes. So let's just quickly grab a color that would not pass. And actually, the LC colors are not accessible. The red and blue together, they're not accessible, but I don't have them memorized, the numbers, but let's just grab one. Okay, so this is our font color, red, and let's say our background is, I don't know, a green. Okay. And as you can see, I don't know why it's doing that. As you can see, it doesn't pass. Okay, so there's like a green, I don't know, you call it a teal, I don't know, but it looks awful. Even looking at it hurts my eyes. Okay. So you can just pick other colors like, oh man, I really wanted to use this red and green. Okay, so just start going darker. And as you can see, you're getting better. You're starting to pass. Okay, so you can still keep that green, teal, whatever it is, maybe a little darker red. Okay, until you finally pass on the color contrast checker. And then you know all of your colors. Maybe we can't use that background. Yeah, let's put a different one. But then you know, this is a great tool. Let's do purple and yellow. That was my high school colors, bro. And you can see pass, pass, pass. So again, dark background, dark purple with a yellow passes, right? You've got a really dark background with a light font. Okay, so that's a really cool tool out there. If you're ever in doubt, ever questioning your color use, just go check it with the contrast checker. Okay, let me get out of that. So back to our documents. Creating a table of contents. I mentioned this, it's something I've thrown in that's new. But basically, for best practice for accessibility, again, if it's a blind user hitting this document, if you can make things more navigable, that is the key, right? Again, we have our eyes, we can see, we can navigate a document, we know when there's different sections, we know if we want to go to this place. But with people who are blind, they rely on the tools we give them in the document. So whether that's a table of contents or the heading levels, anything they have to rely on is great. Table of contents, we always recommend for 10 pages or more. So if you have a document that's going to go over 10 pages, we do recommend you put a table of contents in. The wonderful thing is if you are building your document with structure, with heading levels, you can easily, with the click of a button, input a table of contents. So it's really cool. So I'll show you really quick. Super, super cool. But basically, I have the steps right in there. So it says, number one, place your cursor where you want the table of content to be. So obviously in most documents, this is going to be after your title, maybe on a page before your title, you know, however you set up your document. Again, I'm not the creator, but your table of contents is typically in the beginning of the document, right? So for us, we're just going to input it right here because then I'm going to delete it. I'm just going to show how easy it is. So we already went through, we've marked this in H1. We've marked these subsections, our H2s. And so we've got our headings, our structures marked so far. So when we insert a table of contents, we go up to it says go up to your ribbons tab and select references. So we hit references, and I'm going to just maximize this. You can barely see it. And we are going to select after that, it says click table of contents to open the drop-down menu and select one of the automatic table formats from the built-in menu. So to your very far left, you have table of contents. And just like anything, you have options of how you want it to look. Okay, so for me, I just hit the first one. I'm just trying to show you guys how easy it is to import a table of contents. So I hit the first one, and as you can see, here is my, and we'll just move this to a different page. Okay, so as you can see, here is my creating an accessible document, my heading level 1, or as you can see, it is the title, right? It's left justified. You can see clearly it's the title. And I haven't shown you yet, but we do have a second section in our document, which I also consider a title, and that's form fields. We're not there yet, but you can see. So creating an accessible document is our H1. You can see all of our subsections under creating an accessible document. And then later on, you can see that I've also marked another section or an H1. So it's almost a very important new section. And then all of the subsections under form fields. Okay, so that's how easy it is to bring that table of contents in. I mean, I clicked a few buttons. As long as you mark your sections with headings along the way, table of contents is just a few clicks to add additional accessibility in there. Okay, again, 10 pages or more, it is desired to have a table of contents. All right, moving on to bulleted lists. So lists are really easy, but we like to mention it because people forget. But basically, if order matters, we want you to put numbered lists. So number 1, number 2, recipes, something where order matters, you know, maybe it's division chair and so on. So if it's something where order matters, it needs to be a numbered list. If order does not matter, it's a bulleted list. Okay. And again, the biggest thing here is you don't toggle over or tab over. You use the bulleted list and the numbered list that is given to you in the paragraph tool in Word. Okay, so no toggling over, no hitting a certain, just use the styles, or excuse me, use the tools that Word gives you. Okay. All right, moving on to descriptive hyperlinks. So why this is important. So right now, a lot of the times you'll come across a hyperlink, and we can all, again, we're visual users. We can see, we can hover over it. Okay, it's taking me to the Idaho State Board of Education president announcement on tuition freezes. Wonderful. I can clearly see where that's going. However, if someone's relying on a screen reader because they're blind, their screen reader reads that whole nasty URL to them. So and they can't ever stop. So it reads the whole thing, the whole 3 sentences without stopping. So by the time they get to 4A1F-9CBC 56E, they don't even remember that it said article, news, education, Idaho State Board of Education, you know, that's long gone. Okay, so instead of them listening to this really gross long URL, we just ask that you make it a descriptive hyperlink. So instead of this 3-sentencer, we turn that into this article on tuition freezes for 2020. Again, all the things I'm teaching you are super easy to incorporate into your daily work. This is how easy it is to make a descriptive hyperlink. So you have this really gross URL, and maybe you want to put article on tuition freezes for 2020. Okay, so now you have the descriptive hyperlink. You want to make it, but how do you make that a link? So what I would do is I would either be at that website, or I would grab that URL, and so just copy paste it. So once you, or excuse me, not copy paste it, but just grab it, highlight it, and then you want to right click. So you'll right click on it, and you'll see that there's 4 options: edit hyperlink, open hyperlink, copy hyperlink, remove hyperlink. So a lot of the times in this case, we're going to remove it, but we need to copy that 3-sentencer first, right? We need to steal it. So I go into edit hyperlink, And this pulls up right here where you have that whole hyperlink, you know. So I just copy paste this. I highlight all this, I hit Control Copy, and then I hit OK. Then I go in and highlight my descriptive hyperlink. I right click it and I hit link. Then I Control V, or I paste that 3-sentence address into the address bar, and I hit OK. And now, as you can see, article on tuition freezes for 2020 is a clickable link, right? So now, if we knew that this document was never going to be printed, it's always going to be available in electronic format. Best practice would be to then delete this whole gross URL, okay? Because you have it now. You have article on tuition freezes. It's going to take you to that same website that really long URL is going to take you to. But if you are printing this document in any capacity, it's going to be printed, then we all know that the user is going to need to be able to see that URL, right? So for any reason, if it's ever printed, you're going to need to keep this in parentheses and just unlink it. So I put parentheses around it, I grab the whole thing and I hit remove hyperlink, and it should have removed the hyperlink, but as you can see, it did something wonky. Let me just do this first. I got rid of the parentheses and unlinked it first. Oh, didn't like that either. I messed it up. So anyways, basically what you want to do is just remove the hyperlink and have the really gross long URL afterwards, because again, if it's printed, they're going to need to be able to see the URL. They can't click on the descriptive hyperlink, right? So best practice, if it's ever printed, have this really long URL afterwards if it's going to be printed, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know why it's being weird. It's staying blue. We can get rid of the underline and change it to black, and now it looks normal. I don't know why it was being wonky, but so this is best practice. If it's ever printed, you'll want it to look at like something like this. Okay, article on tuition freezes for 2020, and then in parentheses after that really long URL. Okay, if not, descriptive hyperlink is the most accessible. All right, moving on. Oh, I have another one, www.lcsc.edu. We turn that into LC State homepage, and again, very easy, highlight, right click, hit link, and then just simply put www.lcsc.edu and hit OK. And all of a sudden, that is an accessible descriptive hyperlink. Okay. Next, we're doing alternative text. So this is a big one, guys, because if there is ever an image in your document and someone hits that with a screen reader and it doesn't have a description, they don't know what the image is. So if it's a decorative image like this wonderful kitty cat, then they probably don't need to know that it's a wonderful kitty cat, even though I want to know. They don't want to know. So I've talked to countless students who are low vision or blind. And this is what they've told me bottom line. Autumn, if it has absolutely no information to relay to me, I don't want to know it's there. It muddies up my water. It slows down my screen reader. I just don't need to know if it's there. So if it absolutely conveys no information to me, move on. Okay, now that kills a lot of people because they may have spent a lot of time creating an image, finding this image. To a blind person or someone with low vision, if it conveys no information, they could care less. Okay. So for this, in this case, this kitty cat, my blind user could care less. And so what I would do is I would make it decorative. Okay. And so I would right click the image and it says edit alt text. It's very similar in the Mac world, but you'll want to find edit alt text. And there is a tool that says mark as decorative. Best practice is to always just type decorative and not hit that box. Okay, again, the reason why is because, you know, screen readers will read alt text. It's just always best practice because we don't know what type of screen readers people have and how it's going to interact. So best practice, type in the box. All right. Now the next one is a Canvas login page, and this is a little bit more important, right? Because a student would navigate to this and someone needs to know how to, what they're dealing with and what they need to put in here. So for my edit alt text, it is a little bit more in depth. Okay, but there's no right or wrong way to write alt text. But basically you just need to make sure that you're getting any content to the user. You need to get any information to them. So in this case, we put the Canvas login page has a username field followed by a password field. Under the password field is a box to check to stay logged in. Under stay logged in is a hyperlink to reset your password. The login button is in the bottom right of the login information area. So again, this is a very technical type of image that you would need to describe to a student. So we did want to give you the full spectrum here. We gave you a decorative, you hit decorative. We gave you something very in-depth where you need to walk them through a password field, username field, and what they're seeing, okay? It may be an image of George Washington. Maybe it's an image of President Pemberton. Maybe it's an image of Rachel, some very in-depth, you know, cell, or something very in-depth in science that they're going through, something, some chem. So what we would want is, if best practice, if it's less than a tweet, which is like 145 characters, and I'm not a Twitter person, but this is just best practice. So if you can fit in the alt text, the information in about 140 characters, great. Put it in the alt text. If it's more descriptive than that, which some images are, best practice is a caption, okay? So underneath your image, you can put in your alt text, you know, please see caption, okay? So your alt text will refer the user to a caption, because we have had heart valves or, you know, very intricate body systems that your 140 character tweet is not going to cover, okay? So you need to caption that image, or you need to have information above it that describes that image, okay? So alt text is meant for a tweet, 140 characters. If it's more than that, let's put a caption under the image, and let's put in the alt text to refer to the caption, okay? Again, if there's no alt text, the reader or the blind user has no idea what your image is trying to convey, okay? So very important that we put that. All right, moving on, tables. So this is a big one. We have a lot of people who put text in tables. They put, you know, just words in tables because visually it looks great. You can center it on a page. Maybe it makes the information stand out, right? And so we love people to use tables, but unless it's for data, we highly recommend that you don't use tables, okay? So what we mean by that, you can see here on my example document that we have put Angela, Carrie, Dawn, they all are in e-learning. And so you can see that someone has just tabbed over. If I hit delete twice, you can see when I tab twice, it creates these wonderful columns that kind of look like a table, right? So that's not accessible. Okay, when a screen reader hits that, it'll hit person's name and it'll say Angela, Carrie, Dawn. Okay, it's not going to read in a tab, you know, that order that you tabbed over, because again, a screen reader reads the document navigates the text in a logical order. Okay, so number one, you can't tab over because there's also going to be two spaces. I'm really sorry about the ringing, guys. So it's just not best practice to tab over. Okay, now you can see right underneath we have a table. So what we've done is we've just taken all that information and we put it in a table. Okay, so that seems more logical. Now, as you tab over, you can see that it tabs in a logical reading order: person's name, favorite food, favorite beverage, Angela, tacos, water, Carrie, Don, Carrie, chicken, lemonade, Don, sandwich, tea. So again, that's how you put that information into a table. We don't want you to create your own by tabbing over. Okay. In addition to that, tables used for positioning information on a page or a no-no. So again, this type of info, name, age, date of birth, address, that doesn't need to be in a table. That can just be name with a text box, address with a text box. So this is the type of information we don't want you to put in a table just because it looks good, right? Okay. So tables are meant for actual data. If it's a presentation table where you're putting text in there that has no data, it's probably not meant for a table. Okay. All right. We're switching gears to form fields. So that is really the best practices, very simple stuff for Word documents. Okay. We've gone over some really basic stuff that you should be able to incorporate into your daily work. We're talking about color contrast, marking your sections with headings, you know, and making sure your links aren't these gross URLs and they're descriptive hyperlinks. Very simple stuff, right? Making sure in tables you're actually putting data that needs to be in a table, right? So all things that we feel like users can really incorporate into their daily work, not a difficult task, okay? Now, if you are creating forms, which we do have people out there creating forms all the time, typically you create your form maybe in a Word doc and then you convert it to Adobe, PDF, whatever you're doing to create your forms. So we do have some just some tips for form fields. You may have a better way to do it, and that's okay. So basically, we just want to let people know if you have some sort of form that needs radio buttons or check boxes. Radio buttons should be if they only have one selection. So, you know, again, on our example here, it says, please select your highest level of education. We wouldn't expect someone to pick, you know, master's degree in K through 12. We anticipate that if you have your master's degree, you also got your K through 12. We got it, right? Okay. So it's meant for just one choice. Okay. Now, how do you put those in there? Unfortunately, there are no radio buttons in the Word world. We just ask that you, if you sent us a document and you wanted it to be this section to be radio buttons, you just say this section needs to be radio buttons, and then we can put them in there. And again, you may know how to create radio buttons in Adobe, and that's great. But again, the biggest thing today, the takeaway is radio buttons are intended if there's only one selection. Moving on, check boxes. That is if you can select multiple things. In our example here, any foods that you're allergic to, obviously that can be multiple foods. There is a wonderful check box tool in the Word world. If you're in your developer tools, and if you don't have that, you go File, Options, Customize Ribbon, and you find your developer tool over here and you just check it and hit OK. And then all of a sudden your developer tool will be one of your tools on your ribbon. Okay. Within the developer tool, that's where you can find some of your controls, and that's where you'll have a radio button, or excuse me, a checkbox. So in this case, instead of telling us that you wanted this to be checkboxes, you can actually hit the checkbox tool, and all I do is space over, give it a little space, but you can actually implement those checkboxes here. And then when you convert it to PDF or whatever form software you're using, you can easily, those checkboxes just carry over. So it's great. Okay, so you're getting all the work done in Word and saving yourself some time in whatever your form creator is. Next is text entry fields. Again, this down here, this table is a great example. It should really just be text entry fields. So we turn that into something like this, right? Name, date of birth, age. You simply hit the underscore And when this is converted, Adobe recognizes that as a text field. So again, what you're doing is you're creating less work for yourself in Adobe by doing it here in the Word world. Okay, drop down menus. You would just have to let us know if you wanted to drop down. That's something added in Adobe. If your document is staying a Word document, again, in the developer tools, Word does have a drop down tool. So we could show that really quick, which is right under here. We have all of your different controls, and you can see this one says drop down list content control. You hit that, you can see that your drop down list has showed up, and so you'll want to hit properties. So you'll go right back up to that control and you'll hit properties, and in this case we're going to do please select your county of residence. So you hit properties, and then you put, you know, counties of residence or county of residence, whatever you're asking for. And then down here, you'd put the different counties. So for us, we have Nez Perce, and I just did a few. I think we did Latah, and we did a Sultan, which I know is not Idaho, but can't think that far away. And then I hit OK. Now you can see in your drop downs, you have all of the choices and you can select Nez Perce and county of residence, Nez Perce. So again, if you're staying in the Word world, there is a drop down tool. If you're converting it to PDF, PDF has a more advanced drop down tool. Okay. So that wraps up our presentation today. Again, the main thing the main takeaway is these are easy to incorporate into your daily work when you're creating content. In addition, I'm a resource. If you have PDFs out there that you know a ton of students are accessing, a ton of faculty, staff, other people are accessing, you can send it my way. I can probably have it back to you in a day, fully accessible if you're worried. So I just want, you know, a couple takeaways is it's easy to do, and I'm here as a resource, and I'm happy to help.